Hey guys, I'm FatBuddyCat, and this is the O-MB200. Today, I'm going to upgrade this mini bike with my own custom foot pegs. The stock pegs, they just go up and down, and there's like a tab on the bottom, so they can go up, but that tab overhangs and keeps them from going down. Maybe I should take one of these off so we can get a better look at it. Hey buddy. Over here at the workbench, we can really see what we're working with, or lack thereof. It's basically some really cheap tube steel with a grip pressed onto it and a butt end. So it's probably just really thin and stamped out, and they slide this rubber on, and that's what keeps it there. Well, instead of completely redesigning this, we're just going to try to make it a whole lot bigger and better. I introduce to you 3/4 inch smooth steel rod. This stuff is dense. We have holes drilled perfectly straight through it, and I have 2 of those. At this point, as long as those holes are straight through and I have enough cyborg meat on this end, we're doing good. So, in recreating this smooth stock is going to be our new base. Let's see, this one looks a little closer to the end right now. If we bring this over to the mini bike, it's going to go something like that. And then we'll pass our pin through the hole. Probably going to use a washer on each side when we do that. You can also see that these tangs have been, a little flared out. So maybe we put a little heat on there and give that a knock back in the right direction. That will also true up these holes. Before we put the pin through, we're going to make sure it goes straight through those anyway. If that goes at an angle and this is straight, well, that could throw the lineal placement of the end of the peg off. And it doesn't take much. If it's off 1/8 over here, right, and the piece is only, 5 inches so long, it's going to end up like that. It's going to look hideous. We can fix that. We will. So, this is obviously too small to put your feet on. It's also very smooth. This is just 1-inch pipe. This is a section of 1-inch pipe that's cut. It's about 6.5 inches. It's got some random holes drilled through it and a piece of tape on one end. We also have 2 of those. I'm going to take my piece of 3/4 inch stock with the pinhole on this end, and I'm going to stick it inside the piece of 1-inch pipe. This taped section is to mark no man's land. Once these are installed, some of this, but not all of it, is going to get trimmed back. I'll show you why when we get there. First, I'm going to figure out the distance I want these set at, and then I'm going to be welding these. That's what these holes are for. I'll be doing a series of rosette welds through this steel into this. At the end, I'll put a few tackerinos. I might even use 6013 and do a wraparound just to make it neat. Out here, we'll just leave it alone for now. With these two pieces together, go back over to the mini bike, down to the tangs, and if we line up the holes, we see we're going to have some overhang. That's fine. What we're concerned about is lining up those holes and still having something on the front side, a bit of a clearance between the 1-inch pipe, this part, and the face here. That way, when this thing moves, it doesn't come in contact. We're only dealing with the back part at that point. So I'll find a nice comfortable reveal. It's probably going to be 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and that is where I'll make a mark that will determine where I weld these sleeves on. Here's a little trick I'm going to do. I marked out my reveal, right? My clearance. So I'm 5/8 of an inch from the edge of my hole to that line. So what I did was put my pin, we'll call it, right, in the sleeve, the shaft in the sleeve, like so. And I went up to the line like that. Once it was set at the line, I just took some painter's tape and wrapped it so that the shaft can't move. Now I can go and start tacking these. The shaft doesn't fit exactly perfect, but once I start laying some 7018 in there, she'll definitely grab. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Take them out, weld them up. I got these all welded together and somewhat cleaned up. Go back inside and we're going to start working the ends. By that, I mean the end where the pin goes and holds it onto the tangs. I'm just taking the pegs and holding them roughly where the hole goes, and then marking my excess cyborg meat that we'll be lopping off. Now that they're trimmed, I'm going to be drilling the holes out just a little bit further. We're going to be swapping these stock pins for these big dogs. They're just a little bit bigger, and they already just about fit the stock holes. So, ream these out a little, and ream these out a little. With everything drilled out, these pegs are affixed. The pins go right through, and now we need to stop on the bottom. We're going to end up making a modification here so that the peg can go upwards, but we don't want it to come back down, and we don't need it to come back down that far. We can do better. We need to weld something on the bottom in this area. What I've done now is just built some weld and created a bit of a nubbins out here on the end of my foot peg. That's a very technical term. Don't just throw it around lightly. What these 7018 nubbins are going to do is keep the peg, sorry, these are still hot, from traveling downward, because it's going to cantilever against this off of the pin. So as this is pushing down and away because of that nubbin, it's also putting pressure on the pin, and that's what kind of helps lock it in place. To keep everything tight and to be able to install these, we need a relief. We also need a diagonal relief up here so that if we hit something, these pegs can come upwards. Where we have the nubbins on the bottom, that makes up for a little bit of that. So, this isn't going to be anything enormous. It's just going to come off the tip just a little bit. With these reliefs cut, the pegs can now flip up like they did stock, but they're not going down. The reason being, we need to file a little bit off of the nubbins here. That way the peg can come down flat. I'm going to leave mine flared up just a little bit, but I'm going to take some of this curse off. That way, over time, it wears itself flat, and then hopefully that's where it stays. If ever it wears out, guess what? We take the peg off, we clean it, and we add extra or a new nubbins. I have just a little bit of an upward flare on both of these. If I set the bike level, you can see. Okay? Same thing over here. Now, I'm going to take them off. I just went over them real quick. Little sandpapes. Now, I'm going to take them outside. I'm going to paint them. Typically, I just smack them around with the good stuff. But since we took the scale off in cleaning our welds and such, we want to put that material back if at all possible. So I'm going to hit it with a couple coats of primer first. That way we get just a little bit of a buildup. Alright, just let those simmer. Here they are, fresh honey dipped in that midnight double black onyx, ready for action. Almost. Now, we gotta size them up for these awesome foot peg covers. I got these 1-inch covers for $5 for a pair over at OMBwarehouse.com. Grey Goat himself recommended these. I've used them on a few different builds and I really, really like them. Very simple in design, very easy to replace, and when you bump your shins on them, it's a little more forgiving than metal. If we take the peg itself over to the mini bike and place it where it goes, we can look at what we want for a reveal between the tangs and the end of the actual peg cover. So, I think if we just come right to the end here before it tapers down, we'll be alright. I think we're going to hold it in about an eighth, just so we have a nice straight line. The covers themselves have a little bit of rubber that's built up in the end. So I'm going to keep that in mind while I line that up with the peg itself. I'm now going to measure from the end of my cover to my desired distance over here. And then I'll be cutting that off of this end. After I cut him, I just gave him a quick spritz. Now, I'm going to put these awesome covers on. With the new covers on, and side by side with the stock units, you can already tell we made a bit of an improvement. Let's get them on the mini bike. Oh yeah. Even from the front and the side, you can tell they're a little bit longer. After time, they'll probably settle down some as the nubbins wear in from vibration and whatnot, going up and down and just using them. But they have a very sure placement. You can see looking down inside that big weld that it goes up against, nice and flat right on the face. So that's good and strong. When we sit on the bike is when we can really enjoy the fruits of these labors. We have plenty of room for our feet now. Beautiful. And if it goes down, well, the peg will go up. So, I'm going to have to call that a win. But it's not the end of the game. We have plenty more to do. Because as always, it's a work in progress. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.